Always tough losing a game that was right there in your hands, but the Bulls could not execute on the final possessions within the last 2 minutes. The Bulls, their first loss of the season in the clutch, in a game that would have been a big steal in Dallas for a team that is still undefeated. I will say, though, there were actually a lot of positives from this game. This was one of the better games on the year despite the loss, especially in the second half. The first half, while the Bulls kept it competitive throughout, they were not playing well on offense, and I mean that in the sense that their half-court offense was absolutely abysmal. No ball movement, guys were standing around, dribbling too much. When they were cutting to the basket, they were making bad passes to the cutters. But in the second half, though, guys were moving a lot better off the ball. The defense took it up a notch. They were making smarter plays at the basket, but those final 2 minutes, though, couldn't execute when it matters the most. Now, the positives to take away from this game: one, the big three, you saw more balanced scoring from them. For a while there, Zach just went off. I believe it was the second quarter where he hit 3 straight threes until he finally went on a heat check and missed the fourth one. Not good shots, by the way, and that's exactly the kind of offense we've been talking about that doesn't win games. We can live with it because he was still feeling it and hitting those shots, but you'd like to see a little more sharing of the ball and setting up plays on offense rather than just pulling it up into a transition three. But overall, better balance of scoring and touches from the main three guys. DeRozan was the only one who fell short of hitting 20 points. He finished the game with 16 on 5 for 13 shooting, and I actually like seeing this from DeMar, not the subpar efficiency from him, of course, but rather the fact that he only took 13 shots. Recognizing that other guys were feeling it on offense and trying to get others involved, and he ended up finishing the game with 7 assists as a result. Vucevic, while he had some untimely missed shots at the end of the game, dude had a monster outing tonight. 21 points, 20 rebounds, the first 20 and 20 game we've seen from a Chicago Bull since Pau Gasol. He was aggressive in the post and took advantage of going up against a younger, inexperienced rookie. I think ever since Jalen Duren on the Pistons more or less embarrassed Vucevic by how much he outworked him in that game, Vuce has since responded well. He's been much more focused and aggressive to ensure that doesn't happen again. And when you're going up against younger centers, use that to your advantage. Derek Lively is going to be a great player, by the way. That was a solid draft pickup for the Mavericks in the lottery this year. They actually traded in the lottery to get him, but really a great outing for Vucevic. Would have been even better had he knocked down a couple of those shots in the final minutes. And then Zach, obviously, he was heating up earlier in the game, then slowed down a bit. I like to see Zach get a little more involved on offense as a playmaker, though. I know some will say, why? Zach isn't a good playmaker. The funny thing is that Zach Lavine is actually a good passer and creator when he wants to be. It's just he usually wants to get his shots up. But Zach has only had 3 assists in the last 4 outings. That cannot happen. I know he's one of the Bulls' primary scoring options, but you gotta be moving the ball around more and being impactful in other ways, especially when Zach was averaging over 4 assists per game last season. Having him average a little over 1 is not going to cut it. But aside from the balanced scoring of the big three, the other thing I loved seeing in this game was just how well the Bulls played on Luka Doncic. They gave Luka the most trouble he's seen all season, and also just the fact that the highest scoring team on offense going into the night, they held them to their lowest scoring output of the year. Now, granted, probably helped that Kyrie Irving was out tonight. Kyrie obviously would have drawn attention and defenses away from Luka had he actually played. The Bulls may not have had the luxury of hounding Luka like they did if he was in the lineup. But for Luka, who was averaging 39 points going into this one, holding him to just 18 points, was only able to get up 16 shots when he's been averaging 24, and holding him to 5 for 16 from the floor and 1 for 8 from 3, yeah, I will take that. And I'll also take the fact that while Patrick Williams still continues to struggle offensively, which I'll get to, he actually did a great job in guarding Luka tonight. He was one of the big reasons for why Luka could not get things going on offense. The problem, though, was that while the Bulls overall were solid tonight on the defensive end, especially on Luka, they got lost way too many times on the perimeter and allowing too many open threes for the Mavericks, which the Mavs took full advantage of, going 20 for 48 from deep for Dallas, which is insane efficiency on that kind of volume. Bulls did their best, but very hard to win games when you allow your opponent to knock down 20 threes. And that's kind of where the problem starts when talking about the negative aspects of this game. And not just this game, but really what we've seen in these first 5 games thus far. Yes, the Bulls shot more threes than they did the other night. Yes, they hit them on a decent clip, 11 for 33, which maybe decent is a bit generous, but above 30%, which is saying something for them. But when your opponent is shooting nearly double the amount of threes as you are, and getting the foul line more than double the amount you are, it's just a recipe for making it really hard to win basketball games. And to be honest, it actually speaks volumes to the fact that the Bulls were able to keep it close in this one, and even win the last game against the Pacers. And so at what point Are the Bulls going to realize this is a problem that needs to be rectified immediately? And will they ever, in fact, try and solve for it? Because the crew has been together for a while now. A lot of these guys are who they are, and it's very hard to change their ways and style of play. And that's what worries me, is that they're probably not going to change. As much as the coaching staff and the front office would like to see it happen, they can harp on it all they want, unless you see a change in team personnel, you're most likely going to continue to get the same results. Now, what we thought might lead to some of this change is seeing a leap from Patrick Williams and Coby White, especially on the shooting front, and it just has not been there. It just hasn't. And I will say that I feel bad for Pat. I tweeted this earlier as well after he missed his sixth shot of the game. I feel bad because he's getting good looks. They're just not falling. And you know that's got to be killing his confidence, which has been the biggest mental hurdle for Pat as it is. And to make it worse is that you know Pat's going to get eaten up by fans for going scoreless again, and everyone's going to forget the fact that he actually played well on defense tonight. It's a big reason why you saw him get more minutes and even played in the fourth quarter. And then for Coby White, I mean, the talent is there. He has these flashes. He's shown these flashes, but I always go back to the biggest downside with Coby is his consistency. He's just never been consistent in his play throughout his entire career. He's gotten better overall on a lot of aspects to his game, which we've talked about, but cannot consistently produce good results from game to game. The Bulls most definitely need Pat and Coby and their outside shooting. They need them to be legitimate outside scoring threats to really help spread the floor and create a better flow on offense for the Bulls. Having them combine 1 for 11 from deep tonight is unacceptable. And so I guess I'll kind of go back to what I said a few games ago. It's pretty obvious that Torrey Craig and Jevon Carter need to start. It's not working with Pat and Coby. The question is, how many games will it take for Billy Donovan to actually do something about it? Because we've said all of last year, every game is critical. With the level of parity throughout the NBA, the margin for error is so slim when it comes to seeding and positioning in the standings. The Bulls don't really have the luxury of biding their time to figure it out and see if this eventually works. They need to start acting now, and in my opinion, that starts with making a change in the starting lineup. Anyway, overall, it wasn't a bad game. The Bulls hung tough with currently one of the best teams in the league, and were right there really throughout this game despite getting lit up from behind the arc. Let me know your guys' takeaways from the game in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.